that he can end up in Los Angeles. I have no evidence of this whatsoever. It's just the scuttlebutt that you're hearing, as Tim has heard as well. But in the end, what it comes down to is that you need an executive running the Los Angeles Lakers, and right now it does not exist. I say that in no way to disrespect the great Jeannie Buss, who's absolutely wonderful, but why the hell are you listening to Linda Rambis and Kurt Rambis? As I've said on NBA Countdown, if your last name is Rambis, that might disqualify you from having a job right now. That's how bad the Rambises have been as far as I'm concerned. Somebody needs to say it, so damn it, I'm going to say it, okay? Rob Pelinka, you look very bad. Your mentality was, hey, anybody wearing the purple and gold, their mentalities would change. That proved not to be true, and he proved to really, really be struggling since the absence of a Magic Johnson, because we know Magic Johnson was the one. LeBron was coming anyway, but LeBron and AD there, we understand that was about Magic Johnson. And so right now, where do you go from there? You might be stuck with Russell Westbrook's contract. Do you get rid of the $47 million that he's aiming to make next year? Or do you come to the conclusion that it wasn't his fault, it was really you guys that messed up in terms of trying to assemble that? You can't let LeBron off the hook on this, because LeBron, the player, was an MVP caliber player. LeBron, the general manager, was horrid, because he was the one that okayed and pushed for Russell Westbrook to arrive in Los Angeles, knowing, because of his basketball IQ, the chances of them meshing together as teammates was not going to work. And then there's the perpetually injured Anthony Davis. That ain't about basketball. That's about finding a strength and conditioning coach. That's about finding orthopedic surgeons, people who get pedicures, manicures, and everything in between, and finding out what the hell is it going to take for him to be healthy enough to play. So it's too many questions to have a definitive answer, but clearly this is a step that they had to take, because this team tuned out Frank Vogel, a credible coach who's a champion and knows basketball and didn't deserve this mess. This basically put him in a situation where they tuned him out months ago.
So I promise you, Legler yelled at me last week. This will be the last time.
I don't want to get asked about him anymore.
The last time I ask you about the Lakers. But is this a team where changing the coach will make any substantial difference as far as their overall picture?
I think what's going to make a difference is going to be a couple things. One, LeBron James and Anthony Davis playing enough games in a regular season to give the Lakers a viable chance to win. And I don't think that's ever going to happen going forward. I just think their recent track record is they're going to miss significant chunks of time. And that's LeBron included. He's just at that stage with all the mileage on that body. He's going to miss 15, 20 games. AD might miss 30. So that, to me, is where you start. And if they're healthy and the playoffs and in rhythm, those two guys are still going to give you a chance in the West. But for me, the bigger thing is the rest of the roster construction. That's what he was alluding to. They're too old. They're not defensive-minded. They have no prioritization of the regular season, meaning anything, because they're a bunch of dudes that only want to play April, May, and June. So this is the mess you're going to find yourself in. They're a horrible three-point shooting team. They've got to remake players 4 through 15, Stephen A., because I don't think they can do much with the top three.
We can't escape the fact that Anthony Davis, who was shooting in the 30 percentile from three-point range the last few years, shot 18% from three-point range. Outside of the 30-plus games he missed for the 7 consecutive season, 18%. That is just horrible. Yeah. But here's something that's even worse that very few of us bring up, but Legs know this, and when I say it, everybody's going to notice. That front office is a problem in this regard. They want to pick your coaching staff. They want to tell you who to play. So again, you really, really compromise. I know you hear people like Barkley and others calling them old geezers and what was Frank Vogel supposed to do. Well, guess what? The real issue is Frank Vogel didn't have the cachet to push back in a way that was formidable enough for them to back off, because they're telling him who to play. They're telling him how to coach. You can't do that. What you're supposed to do is hire the coach and let him do the job and judge him accordingly. They literally took the job away from him while keeping him on the sidelines. That can't happen.
Can I just say one thing about Frank Vogel?
Yeah.
The man's going to sleep like a baby.
That's right.
Okay?
Tonight, yeah.
He should be relieved. He's got a championship on his resume.
That's right.
He is going to coach again in this league.
And he should.
And he's going to go to a more appropriate team that he can actually coach, develop players, and put forth the defensive juggernaut on the court. He'll get that opportunity again in the future. This was not fair to lay this at his feet.
Okay, so then let's get to the teams that are still playing. And let's get to the report, Stephen A., that we had on NBA Countdown yesterday from Woj at the pain-free progress of Ben Simmons' Simmons' back is fueling hope that he could debut sometime in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, even if it begins in a limited role, like 10 to 15 minutes per game. He will not play, to be clear, in the play-in tournament. The Nets will play tomorrow night. If they win, they go into the first round. If they lose, they play again on Friday. Stephen A., if they get a meaningful contribution from Ben Simmons,
they go to the finals. In my opinion, they can go to the finals. That's how much I think about Ben Simmons, the player. But I'd be remiss in neglecting this point. I have a reputation. I'm going to give it to you like I call it like I see it. But I don't get into people's personal life. I don't want to know your business. It's none of my business. The exception is Ben Simmons. What the hell were you doing? You ain't played since last June. How you got a back problem? What the hell were you doing? I want to know the answer to that question. Because you suing for $20 million. You file a grievance for $20 million. You want your $20 million even though you didn't play a game. It was supposed to be mental health issues, and we take that very seriously for those who really have it. For those who don't, that's a different subject for another day. But now you get to Brooklyn, and there's a back injury. What the hell happened? You were driving up the turnpike, I-95, and in the car seat, it wasn't cushiony enough, and you hit a pothole or something, and you hurt your back? What the hell happened? That you have a back issue when you haven't played a minute, a second since last June. We have a right to know that as basketball fans. We got a right to know what the hell were you doing that you hurt your back. You ain't playing any games. What you do? I mean, hell, did you slip in the tub? What you do? I don't know, but I got a right to know that because something don't make sense. Having said that, if that brother's healthy enough to give you 25 minutes as a stout defender and playmaker. We know he can't shoot. We know he don't want to shoot. Don't matter. If he can be a stout defender and a big-time playmaker, the Brooklyn Nets come out of the East. I don't think he can do it based on what they're saying. Getting shots in his back. But if he could, for 25 minutes a game, that's all Kyrie and KD need to get you to the finals.
I agree because he's one of the only players you could incorporate after a year off and just put him in without worrying about disrupting rhythm because he doesn't need shots. He's not a guy that's going to isolate. He's not a guy that's a high-volume shot taker. You don't have to do anything offensively to, facilitate for him. He creates pace. He spoon feeds role players easy shots, and he can guard anybody on the floor. I'll even say, he said 25 minutes. I'll even say if Ben Simmons plays 18, 20 minutes a game, and he stays on the court, that could be enough of a difference to give a porous defensive team enough defensive resistance to make a legitimate run at the Eastern
Conference. Because they can score 120 a night in their sleep. That's why. This is not a team that struggles offensively. At any moment, they can turn it on. You do not want to be in a close game against the Brooklyn Nets because not only can KD and Kyrie hurt you in a multitude of ways offensively, they ain't going to mess up at the free throw line.
The only thing I'm upset about, I don't see any scenario now, Stephen A., we talked about this, that we get Brooklyn, Philly, and I wanted it so bad.
I know.
I don't see it happening
Philly could lose
now.
in the first round.
I know.
The way you get it is if Brooklyn loses in the first play-in game, then wins the second, they become the 8th seed. They would then have to beat the 1 seed Miami, and then they play the winner of 4 or 5.
And Philly beats Toronto, which might not happen either. So it just doesn't look like that path is
So
going to
let's go to them, Stephen A. And I love asking questions to which I already know the answer.
Yes.
Which one individual is under the most pressure of anyone in the NBA as these playoffs begin?
James Harden. James Harden is holding a lot in his hands. First of all, James Harden is looking for at least a year down the road, sign a $200 million contract. You don't get it done in Philly. You don't come close to getting it done. That ain't going to happen. Doc Rivers' job may be on the line, unfortunately. That's an issue. But here's my biggest thing. Daryl Morey's on the line. You traded Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, Ben Simmons, 2 first-round picks for James Harden. So the one reprieve that Daryl Morey gets is if they don't play Brooklyn. See, if they lose to anybody else, you could blame Doc. He gonna blame Doc Rivers. Not literally him directly, but I'm saying the organization, they're gonna point the finger at Doc Rivers because Daryl Morey and James Harden would prefer to have Mike D'Antoni. It's the worst kept secret in the NBA. Everybody knows this. They want Mike D'Antoni to be their coach. You can pull that off justifiably, in their minds at least, if you lose to somebody else other than Brooklyn. If Brooklyn were to go against Philly, ain't nobody think about Doc Rivers. That got nothing to do with Doc Rivers. That's on Harden and Daryl Morey. You can't escape that accountability. So if they end up circumventing Brooklyn, they get away with stuff.
To get there, they have to get through Toronto. You just mentioned it. I want to make sure everyone watching is aware of this. Matisse Thybulle, who's an incredibly important piece of the Philadelphia puzzle, is not eligible to play games in Toronto because he's not fully vaccinated. He can't get into the country. So if that series goes long, he will miss all of the games in Toronto. Do the Sixers win anyway?
I don't feel confident in saying it. You want me to go Sixers and 7? I will. I don't feel good about it. The people in Philadelphia